Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are walking straight into a political disaster, and their own party is panicking. Labour's cosy relationship with China has left even their own MPs deeply uneasy as the government rushes to approve a massive Chinese mega embassy in the heart of London. And here's the bombshell. This isn't just an ordinary embassy. This is a super site, a sprawling, heavily fortified compound that hands a piece of British soil over to Beijing. Critics are warning that this is the biggest security risk in modern UK history, and yet Labour's top leadership is forcing it through. And it's not just the Tories who are alarmed. Iain Duncan-Smith has just sounded the alarm on GB News, revealing that Labour MPs themselves are worried but too scared to speak out publicly. We're about to show you the jaw-dropping moment where Duncan-Smith tears into Starmer and Reeves and exposes Labour's dangerous China strategy for the world to see.
Is this naivety or stupidity?
Well, MI5 doesn't want them. We know MI5 and MI6 are utterly opposed to it.
So why aren't Rayner and Starmer listening to it?
Because they're in the game of cozying up to China at the moment. I mean, I know lots of Labour MPs that are deeply worried now about their position over China. Really, a lot of them. I IPAC, the Interparliamentary Alliance on China. We have 40 countries globally. We have a lot of Labour MPs involved, and a growing number.
Okay.
And they are very worried about this. So it's not just a case of a Tory attacking Labour. It's the other way around.
So you could say cozying up to China, but not necessarily to Trump.
Duncan-Smith didn't hold back. He called Labour's decision the biggest kowtow in British history. And folks, he's absolutely right. Let's break it down. The proposed Chinese super embassy is set to be built on the Royal Mint site in London. This isn't just some office building. This is a highly strategic location with underground cables running right through it. And according to Duncan-Smith, the moment Labour approves this deal, Britain will be giving up control over part of its own capital. And what's even worse, 2,000 British citizens currently live on this site. That means once the embassy is built, those residents will technically be under Chinese law. Think about that. A slice of Britain, governed by Beijing. But despite these massive security concerns, Labour's leadership is marching forward. David Lammy and Yvette Cooper have personally backed the project. And it just so happens that this support came right after Rachel Reeves's visit to China. Coincidence? Iain Duncan-Smith doesn't think so. And neither do a growing number of worried Labour MPs. I know lots of Labour MPs that are deeply worried about their position over China. Lots of them. And here's the real kicker. This isn't about diplomacy. This is about China's global economic dominance. Labour's decision to push ahead with this deal comes just as China prepares to flood the UK market with cheap electric cars. That's right. Beijing's next move is to wipe out British car manufacturers by undercutting them with rock-bottom prices. And what is Labour doing about it? Rolling out the red carpet. This is not just bad policy. This is a full-scale economic and security disaster. And even Labour's own backbenchers are getting nervous. But folks, this isn't the only crisis Labour is dealing with right now, because while the China scandal explodes, Labour is also tearing itself apart over another deeply controversial decision, Rachel Reeves's Heathrow expansion plan. Reeves is pushing to build a third runway at Heathrow, promising 100,000 new jobs and economic growth. But now, a major Labour MP has just come out against her plan, Barry Gardiner. Gardiner isn't holding back. He just slammed Reeves for looking backwards, calling her Heathrow expansion outdated and environmentally reckless. His argument, Dubai, the world's biggest international airport, only has 2 runways, and yet it just overtook Heathrow. So why are we still stuck in the past? Folks, this isn't just a policy disagreement. This is a civil war inside Labour. Reeves is trying to sell this plan as a win for jobs and investment, but Gardiner and his allies are arguing that it's a betrayal of Labour's climate commitments. And when GB News' Camilla Tominey challenged Gardiner on whether he was just protecting his political position, he shot back, "This isn't about politics, it's about what's right for Britain's future." The cracks inside Labour are widening and fast. And as if that wasn't enough, Labour is also preparing to push through one of the most brutal welfare cuts in a generation. Rachel Reeves and Liz Kendall have drawn up plans to slash the UK's £65 billion sickness benefits budget. What does this mean? Hundreds of thousands of disabled Britons could lose up to £5,000 a year. Long-term sickness benefit claimants will now have to actively seek work. The work capability assessment could be scrapped, making it far harder to qualify for benefits. Labour is cutting billions from the welfare budget to avoid a tax hike. And let's be clear, this is not what Labour voters expected. Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves spent years promising to defend the welfare system. Now they're gutting it to balance the books, and it's not going unnoticed. Labour's left-wing MPs are furious. Disability rights groups are warning of a humanitarian disaster. And even inside the Treasury, there are fears that these cuts could backfire massively. But Reeves doesn't have a choice. The Treasury is demanding billions in cuts, and if she doesn't deliver, she'll be forced into a humiliating tax-raising budget. Think about what's happening here. Labour is handing over British land to China. Labour MPs are openly revolting over Heathrow. Labour is slashing benefits for the most vulnerable. This isn't just a Labour crisis. This is a total collapse of their promises, their policies, and their credibility. And here's the real question. If Labour is betraying its voters this quickly, what else are they hiding? Keir Starmer sold himself as a moderate. Rachel Reeves claimed she'd protect working people. But in just a few months, they've sold out Britain to China, alienated their own MPs, and launched the biggest welfare cuts in a decade. This is the Labour government people feared. And folks, it's only going to get worse. So what do you think? Is Keir Starmer too close to China? Is Rachel Reeves's Heathrow plan a disaster waiting to happen? And are these welfare cuts the biggest betrayal in modern Labour history? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because we'll be bringing you every explosive detail as this scandal unfolds. 3 fire emojis.